For Botswana, this move signifies more than just a strategic decision. It symbolizes a region asserting its independence and self-sufficiency on the world stage.
In a move that's shaking the very foundations of global trade, Botswana's president has declared an end to exporting raw minerals, and he's not alone. Joining forces with Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the bold leader of Burkina Faso, Botswana is taking a powerful stand for African self-reliance.
Just months into his presidency, Boko has emerged as a beacon of hope, drawing inspiration from and aligning with Burkina Faso's revolutionary captain Ibrahim Traoré.
This announcement is more than policy. It's a revolution against exploitation. Western powers are panicking as Africa's leaders say, "No more." Traoré's vision of an African-owned mining and military industry is no longer a dream. It's becoming a continental movement. And with Botswana now on board, the world is officially on notice.
The government of Botswana has just unveiled a bold economic strategy aimed at creating jobs, cutting energy costs, and reducing the country's dependence on diamonds. Will these investments finally fix unemployment and take Botswana's economy to the next level?
Botswana's bold move, a continental shift. Botswana has just broken the rocks on the global mining industry. Effective immediately, the southern African nation will no longer permit the export of raw minerals. This is more than a policy shift. It's an economic revolution. For decades, Africa has watched as its raw resources were extracted, shipped abroad for processing, and then sold back at inflated prices. Botswana's bold new stance mandates that mineral refinement must happen domestically, ensuring the value remains within its borders. At the heart of this movement is Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso. Traoré has long denounced the exploitative global system that enriches Europe and North America while keeping Africa dependent. Now, his vision is taking hold. By advocating for local production and ownership of value chains, Traoré isn't just imagining sovereignty, he's enforcing it.
Successful, it cannot, because then how will you legitimize your exploitation? If it's not in need of help, how will you intervene? If it's not backward, how will you look down on it? Have you ever asked yourselves, has any editor sitting at their desk, any news director in a meeting, any columnist at their keyboard ever thought, why are the people of the world's richest lands poor?
Botswana's President Mokgweetsi Masisi has echoed Traoré's sentiments, calling for an end to Africa serving as the world's quarry. This marks a dramatic shift in how African nations view their natural wealth. No longer content with symbolic participation in global markets, countries like Botswana are taking control of their economic destiny. The message is clear: the era of passive extraction is over. A new generation of African leaders is demanding change, and Ibrahim Traoré is at the forefront. Botswana's move may be the first domino to fall, but it's Traoré who helped set the chain in motion. Africa is not waiting, it's building.
Aside from kicking out French troops and ending military cooperation with its former colonial master France, thereby granting military sovereignty to Burkina Faso, Captain Traoré has also strived to ensure that Burkina Faso has monetary and economic sovereignty.
Traoré's vision for economic self-reliance. While Botswana's declaration is fresh, Ibrahim Traoré's vision has been fermenting in the revolutionary cauldron for months. He isn't merely fighting terrorism or corruption, he's fighting dependency. For Traoré, economic self-reliance isn't a slogan, it's policy, action, and attitude. He believes that a nation without control over its resources is a nation under occupation, even without foreign troops. His government has already taken bold steps to ensure Burkina Faso doesn't remain at the mercy of external powers. One shining example is the gold refinery project in Ouagadougou. Until now, gold mined in Burkina Faso was mostly exported raw. Traoré saw this for what it was: legalized looting. With the refinery, gold will now be processed domestically, maximizing national revenue and employment. But he's not stopping there. Tomato processing plants are also being built to curb import dependency and boost local farming. The plan is simple yet radical. Use what you have, make what you need. This homegrown economic doctrine is spreading like wildfire. It's not just about money, it's about sovereignty. In every speech, Traoré reminds citizens that wealth isn't buried underground. It's in the hands of those who control it. His call to process resources domestically isn't just an economic policy, it's a declaration of war against the system that kept Africa poor. Botswana just joined his army.
The Bongu and Wanyun gold mines in Burkina Faso were previously owned by an African mining company. But this is now set to change, as Ouagadougou agreed a deal on Tuesday to nationalize the mines for around $80 million.
Nationalizing the future, resource power grab. Traoré knows that political speeches mean nothing without ownership. That's why his government is grabbing the bull by the horns, or in this case, the gold by the veins. Since coming to power, he has nationalized several major mining operations, transferring control from foreign firms to the state and the Burkina people. One of the biggest game changers was the takeover of the Bongu and Wanyun gold mines. Once major assets for Western companies, they now benefit local communities under Traoré's leadership. The transition wasn't easy, marked by legal threats, pushback, and economic pressure. But Traoré remained resolute. He understood that the future of Burkina Faso lay beneath its soil, and he was determined that its wealth should serve the people, not foreign interests. His bold move redefined national ownership and economic sovereignty. Traoré isn't against foreign investment. He's against foreign dominance. Under new rules, foreign firms are welcome, but only as partners, not masters. Local ownership is non-negotiable. These reforms don't just change contracts, they change paradigms. They inspire other leaders, like Botswana's Masisi, to realize they too can say no to exploitation. The message is clear. Africa doesn't need charity, it needs control. And control comes from ownership. Traoré is blazing a trail, showing that nationalizing isn't a relic of socialism, it's a requirement for survival. Botswana's move is proof that the message is resonating.
Three leaders united in their isolation. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have announced their withdrawal from ECOWAS. That was after the West African Regional Bloc suspended them, citing their recent military takeovers.
Africa unites, regional cooperation through AES. The formation of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, is Traoré's brainchild, and it's a continental game-changer. Alongside Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso exited ECOWAS and created a new bloc centered on sovereignty, security, and shared prosperity. This wasn't just a diplomatic reshuffle, it was a revolutionary rejection of neo-colonial politics. AES represents Africa's boldest experiment in self-governance in recent memory. The alliance rejects outside interference and seeks homegrown solutions to African problems. One of its primary goals is economic cooperation, including joint infrastructure and industrial ventures. With each nation rich in resources but lacking local processing, AES aims to pool efforts and build shared refineries, factories, and energy grids. Traoré's leadership in AES is pivotal. His ideology isn't just catching on, it's cementing itself in regional policy. Botswana's decision mirrors the AES philosophy, proving that the alliance's ripple effect extends far beyond the Sahel. This isn't about a single country rising, it's about a collective ascent. Even outside the AES, other nations are watching. African unity is no longer a Pan-Africanist dream. It's turning into trade agreements, joint ventures, and shared resistance to foreign exploitation. With Traoré at the helm, the AES is setting the standard, and Botswana is clearly on board with that vision. The message, Africa first, Africa united.
On the eastern edge of the city, surrounded by dusty roads and scattered neighborhoods, sites a cluster of low, concrete buildings. This is the National Mango Processing Center, a factory entirely funded and operated by the Burkina Faso government.
Kicking out the middleman, processing at home. Traoré has made it crystal clear, exporting raw materials is exporting wealth. And he's not wrong. When raw gold or minerals leave Africa, so does the real profit. The countries that refine them reap the rewards, while the source nations get crumbs. This middleman model is exactly what Botswana just declared war on, thanks in part to Traoré's influence. In Burkina Faso, new legislation now mandates that raw resources must be processed domestically before any export. This means setting up local refineries, training workers, and building infrastructure. It's a long road, but one Traoré believes is essential for real independence. The result? Thousands of new jobs, stronger local industries, and a major increase in government revenue. Botswana's decision to follow suit sends a powerful signal. African nations are waking up. They're tired of being resource-rich and cash-poor. Traoré's model is about more than economics. It's about dignity. Why should Africa be the only continent that doesn't benefit fully from its own riches? He has challenged the global narrative. For too long, Africa was seen as a place to extract from, not build in. Traoré just blew the plan, and now Botswana is echoing his logic. By banning raw mineral exports, they're not just changing policy, they're rewriting history.
For Botswana, this move signifies more than just a strategic decision. It symbolizes a region asserting its independence and self-sufficiency on the world stage.
Traoré the trendsetter, beyond the Sahel. What started as a bold stance in landlocked Burkina Faso has now inspired action in one of Africa's more economically stable nations. Botswana's pivot proves that Traoré is no longer just a revolutionary leader. He's a trendsetter. His fight for economic sovereignty is sparking a continental awakening. For years, African leaders hesitated to challenge the international mining giants. The risk was too high, the pressure too intense. But Traoré's unapologetic pushback gave others courage. Botswana, long seen as a model of African democracy, is now embracing his radical economic nationalism. Even countries with long-standing ties to Western industries are starting to reconsider. Tanzania, Zambia, and the DRC are drafting similar legislation. Traoré's message isn't limited to the Sahel, it's going viral across borders. He's turned economic patriotism into a movement. By promoting resource processing, nationalization, and regional alliances, Traoré has positioned himself as more than just Burkina Faso's president. He's become the ideological architect of Africa's economic future. Botswana's decision is a page straight out of his playbook. If Traoré continues at this pace, he'll go down not just as a national hero, but as a continental game-changer. Botswana joining the cause is not just validation, it's momentum. The revolution is spreading.
The image of this strong leader, right? How important is this guy's image to convey a message of, we are not afraid?
Crushing neocolonialism, one policy at a time. Let's not sugarcoat it. Traoré's real war is against neocolonialism, and banning raw mineral exports is a direct strike to the heart of that system. For decades, Africa has been structured to serve foreign interests. Education systems, trade routes, even political systems were all designed by and for colonial powers. Traoré wants to dismantle that completely. Botswana's decision to keep raw materials within its borders echoes that sentiment. They're not just changing laws, they're flipping the global value chain. This move forces international companies to invest locally or leave. It forces the West to reckon with a new Africa, an Africa that doesn't beg but bargains. Traoré has said it loud and clear. Africa must be the master of its own destiny. He refuses to let foreign companies exploit Burkina gold while locals starve. Now Botswana is refusing the same treatment for its diamonds and copper. This is economic liberation in real time. It's not just about minerals, it's about the right to decide, the right to build, the right to own. Traoré, and now Botswana is reclaiming all of that. They're not waiting for permission. They're taking what should have never been given away. This is the death knell of neocolonialism, and it sounds a lot like Traoré's voice echoing from Gaborone to Ouagadougou.
What if Africa had stood its ground in 1963? What if, instead of allowing foreign militaries to train their armies and advise their governments, Africa had created its own continental security structure, run by Africans, funded by Africans, for Africans?
The continent responds. Traoré's influence is global. Botswana's decision isn't happening in a vacuum. Across the continent, nations are awakening to Traoré's call. From youth movements in Senegal to policy shifts in Namibia, the influence of this Burkina firebrand is unmistakable. He's not just a president anymore, he's a symbol. In universities, his speeches are being studied. On social media, his videos are going viral. Young Africans see in him what they've been yearning for: strength, pride, and a refusal to be bullied. Botswana's policy shift is just one sign that Traoré's rhetoric is landing not just in hearts, but in parliament chambers too. Even African diasporas in Europe and the US are rallying around his message. The idea that Africa can rise by its own hand, not with aid, but with ownership, is revolutionary, and it's catching fire. Botswana may have dropped the policy bombshell, but Traoré lit the fuse. The wave he started is becoming a tsunami. More leaders will follow, more policies will shift, and one day soon, we might look back at 2025 as the year Africa reclaimed its wealth. Not through charity, not through negotiation, but through power. Traoré gave the blueprint. Botswana followed the plan. Now, the continent moves in rhythm, and the world is watching. Africa is rising, not with whispers, but with a roar. Captain Traoré's fearless leadership is inspiring a new era, where Africa keeps its wealth, builds its industries, and breaks free from centuries of dependence. Botswana's bold decision proves that Traoré isn't standing alone. He's leading a continental awakening. With more countries eyeing similar reforms, the days of exporting raw riches and importing poverty are numbered. This isn't just politics, it's power reclaimed. If the West thought Traoré was a lone voice, they're waking up to an Africa that's united, strategic, and done playing small.